My name is Tessa and I am 31 and I live in East London. I do a sort of combination of different types of jobs, like all in the field of music and dance. Also manage a dance studio and I teach the piano and I do various creative performance projects. I've been really interested in this project since I first heard about it, and I'm really pleased to be able to participate in it as somebody that doesn't take drugs. I don't take drugs really, so I'm in a privileged position in terms of the law in this case because there's nothing illegal. I don't participate in anything that's considered illegal by the government. But I am involved in communities and I have a lot of friends, close friends that take a lot of drugs, and so I will have to be kind of careful about how I identify myself and them as I talk. I don't do any chemical drugs. I don't do any drugs that are classified by the government as drugs, and I also don't drink, and I don't drink caffeine, and I don't smoke. I would say the main reason that I don't take really strong stimulants is because I feel like they're sort of a bit special, and that if you're going to take them, that you should be taking them in a situation where you're supported by, say, teachers, or where you've really gone into it consciously and that you've got enough resources to make the most of the drug. And I suppose that I haven't felt like I've been in a situation where I've had that yet. And I also feel like, if I'm honest, I've got quite an addictive personality, and I'm a bit scared of how I might become very easily very dependent. The physical repercussion that you have from it afterwards, because I'm a dancer and I work with my body so much, I feel really guilty, and I always really suffer through those periods and feel really sorry for myself, and so yeah, that basically began to outweigh the positive side for me. When I was about 14, I think I decided that I wanted to be really cool, and I think I decided quite consciously that I wanted to be, or that I felt I needed to be cooler than the people at school. So I tried to make friends with people who are quite a lot older than me, and they sort of tolerated having me around, and part of hanging out with them was drinking. So I used to drink, especially in public spaces, quite a lot, but by the time I'd got to sort of 16 or 17, I'd sort of got through that. I was a bit bored by that really. And then I started smoking, I suppose, around then as well. Like smoking weed, as in. But I felt then that I needed something that would really open me up, rather than just as the personality type that I am. Rather than sort of, I felt that weed sort of would close me down a little bit, and marijuana tend to make me feel a bit like probably a tendency to paranoia anyway. So I just didn't feel like that was the direction I needed to move in, that I needed something that would sort of really rip me open and take me the other way if I was going to take a stimulant. So I just sort of gave it a bit of a rest for a few years. And then at uni, I'd gone off drinking, I think. And so already, it may have even been just 1 week, already in Freshers Week, I was kind of bored of that situation. And so I kind of took myself off and started to make friends in other ways, in other places. In the communities that I'm in, a lot of our social life is based around drugs really, and about parties that go on all the way through the night and then all the way through the next day. And not only do I not really take drugs, I also am quite keen to go to sleep quite early. So I've got a bit of a reputation in the group that, they know that if I'm coming out, we have to be going out to something where something will happen before about 10 or 11, so that I don't miss everything before I have to go home to bed. So I do feel like I miss out on things, because I know that people have obviously they have amazing experiences, but also socially I feel like sometimes they have opportunities to bond in really quite intimate and special ways that I don't really have. Yeah, so I do feel that, but I also feel like I'm absolutely, totally accepted by the group, and I'm not, there's no social pressure on me to do anything that I don't want to do, and so I'm quite happy with it, really. I can't really find very many people in the world that are in my sorts of circles or have my interests that don't take drugs. I don't really know why that is. I suppose I hang out with a lot of artists, hang out with a lot of people that like to party, and I also hang out with people that are interested in thinking slightly outside the box. And for some reason, all of those groups also have a sort of intimate connection to drugs and drug taking. So I haven't found very many other people who are like me, so straight as me. I don't really have any difficulty at this stage with my identity or my behaviour, like as somebody that doesn't take drugs in a group of people that do. It's probably slightly more challenging for other people in the group than it is for me. It makes people really challenge themselves and really ask themselves deep questions about why they have taken the drugs, if I'm there. And also I suppose people are in quite a vulnerable state when they take drugs, and so they're probably a bit self-conscious. They might think, oh, she's sober, so she's going to remember things, whereas their friends who are not sober might not. So perhaps they feel threatened in that way. I would never really be very interested in embarrassing somebody in that way, but I suppose it threatens people anyway. Yeah, people who have gone really far on any drug can be like less interesting to engage with, I suppose, because they're quite often in their own kind of world, really. But especially people who have taken a lot of things that make you go down or calm you down or whatever, like ketamine, and to a certain extent marijuana, I suppose. And also, obviously, if you get far enough, then alcohol. People who are really good to be around are people who are on ecstasy, for me. But it's probably because that's the drug that I would probably benefit from quite a lot. Also, people who are on mushrooms are quite nice and friendly. Like people who I feel like it's like they have their little heart peeled open, and then they're like really sort of sociable and ready to be intimate and ready to share special things, and it somehow makes the time really special, or it can do. I think taking drugs is like an amazing opportunity for like a state of transformation. So sometimes people really, especially if they can't accept where they are right at that time, people crave like a state of transformation. So they take like a shortcut to it. And I think that as drugs are something that can provide a transformation, that they're like beautiful and like essential things, really. And I suppose they're also extremely powerful things. And so it's totally up to the individual at the time. They're the only person that could ever know whether it's going to be okay or whether it's like a really horrible bad mistake, which is like whether you're developing yourself or whether you're sort of abusing yourself. You could use drugs as an escapism and all of that sort of stuff about perhaps not really acknowledging how you really feel or running away from your problems, or also taking drugs because you're not really confident that you can enjoy yourself or make a social connection with other people without it. I think there's lots of benefits of taking drugs. I think it gives people like an opportunity to step out of their normal like tracks that they travel along and observe themselves from the outside. For example, that's like one of the things it can do. Or it can give you an opportunity to like observe your environment from a different perspective, or it can give you an opportunity to like go through personal transformations which perhaps you wouldn't have the tools and resources to do otherwise, like overcoming self-confidence issues or being able to be extremely intimate with another person. And all of those are really essential things to like the development of the human race and individuals as they go through their like life. I think it's just an incredibly complex sort of journey. I wish that the laws on drugs were more informed by a recognition of the positive aspects of drug taking. And I wish that they empowered people to be able to use drugs, because people will use them anyway. And I wish that those laws empowered people to be able to use them for like positive reasons. And I think that they're really only informed by a sort of a sense of fear of the power of drugs, really. And I think that's to the whole society's detriment.
Do you know anybody who's got into big serious trouble with drugs, who's become an addict, or who's committed crimes to fund their habit or anything?
Yes, yeah, I do. Yeah.
And with that person, all those people in mind, do you still feel the same way about the laws on drugs?
Yes, because I don't think that those laws, I think those laws like probably helped that person get to that place. Like those people are not supported in any way with the parts of their like personality that started to abuse drugs. Whereas if there was a more sort of like supportive cultural like context to take drugs in, then I think they would have had support that they needed much earlier. And instead their demons got the upper hand because they were so alone. It hadn't really occurred to me that all of my friends are criminals for their behaviour. Yeah, it's quite shocking when you think about it like that. Yeah, I suppose we tend to sort of live in our own little bubble and not really think about it. I suppose if my friends are criminals for taking drugs, then, you know, I accept whatever label that whatever institution wants to put on them. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to accept either that those laws are right or that therefore criminals are bad. If our culture and our society lays down laws that makes people who are, I would say, good people criminals, then I would say that makes the term criminal quite a nice term. Like that basically means that we empower the term criminal to mean something much more positive. If I had children, I would definitely broach the subject of drugs with them. Like no later than age 11, I imagine. But I probably couldn't make any more generalisations than that because it would depend who I felt that they were and what I felt that they would need or not need in that situation. I don't feel like a person has to take drugs in order to have a good life. So, but I do also feel that a person needs to know about the power of drugs and the positive and the negative sides of it because they'll come into contact with it.